Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to do another get ready with me from a book character perspective. And so this week I'm going to be doing It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Of course, this is all over media right now because the movie is coming out starring Blake Lively. Apparently there's drama going on, all the things. But all of that aside, I did finish reading the book relatively recently. And so I thought it would be a good timing to kind of do character makeup. So I was able to find inspiration from some pictures online. I have not seen the movie. I haven't really read a whole lot about it, but I found a picture that I felt like embodied what I envisioned for the character when I was reading the book anyway. So that is the makeup look that we're going to be creating today using things I already have in my collection. So if you want to see me recreate this look and kind of hear some of my thoughts and takeaways from reading the book, then just keep watching. Okay, so we're gonna get started and I will put the picture back up here for reference of what I'm going off of. This is a different book character get ready with me since it is a movie and it's really hard not to use what they did already in the movie as inspiration. And so I have not seen the movie and I don't know if I will anytime soon, but I will eventually. But just kind of after watching the trailer and flipping through some photos from the movie, I felt like this image kind of personified the character that I was imagining when I was reading the book anyway. So I'm gonna go based off of this makeup look, and I also feel like as I looked more closely at it, I was like, it's actually a relatively simple look that I feel like I could recreate using things that I already have. So that is what we're going to do today. So the first thing we're gonna do is eyes, and I feel like in the picture I noticed that she doesn't have any sort of like shine or glitter going on in her face. It's all pretty much matte. So I pulled out my Norvina palette and I'm going to use some of the matte brown shades on the bottom. I'm just going to use the brush that came with the palette. So, like I said, I have not seen the movie and I finished the book relatively recently, and I like to try and read books before I see a movie. And somehow for this one, of course, it's impossible not to have seen that Blake Lively was going to play the lead, and that was totally fine with me. But I actually was able to not see any spoilers or see any of the other cast that had been cast for the parts while I was reading the book. So I kind of was able to at least imagine other parts of the story for myself. Like I didn't watch a trailer for the movie or anything. I literally only saw that Blake Lively was the lead because I follow her on social media. So now I'm going to take just a different darker deep brown and kind of do the crease a little bit more just to add some definition. But yeah, so it's definitely, it's not 100% outside the genre of book that I normally read, but I do read a lot of like romance fiction. So more like the rom-com style or chick lit where everything kind of isn't as heavy, or, you know, if they are dealing with deeper topics, they still do it in kind of a lighter way that's kind of more discussed. I don't want to say superficially, but it's not like the whole like anchor of the book. And so this was definitely a different tone for a book that I read, and definitely while I was reading it, I had to take breaks more often than sometimes I normally do. I would only read like 2 or 3 chapters and then be like, whew, I gotta put this down. There's a lot to like digest and interpret and think about after this. So from that, I do think that Colleen Hoover is a pretty good writer. It was my first Colleen Hoover book because I'd always been warned that, you know, her books were a little heavy, you know, kind of would leave you in some like emotional turmoil at the end. And sometimes that's just not what I'm looking for when I'm reading. A lot of times, you know, based on the other 2 book character looks I've done, I like to read things that are a little more lighthearted, a little more fun, and just kind of more as an escape from reality in a positive way. So that being said, I do think I would venture into reading more Colleen Hoover books. I just feel like I would really need to space them out. Like I'm not going to read a bunch back to back. That's just like too much to handle. But I do think it was interesting to read a book that kind of actually dealt with a really heavy topic. Okay, so that's pretty much all I'm doing for the eyes, because like I said in the picture, it looks like she's just got a matte shade all over her eyes, and that's it. But I do notice that there is quite a bit of eyeliner, which honestly, I have not worn eyeliner in forever, like straight up pencil eyeliner. So I'm kind of excited to do this look and see what it looks like on me, and maybe like venture back into those like nostalgic days of when I used to wear black liner all the time. So I'm just going to be using my NYX Slide On Glide On pencil in black. And I'm just going to do a little bit on the upper lash line and kind of smudge it out and then line my waterline. But speaking of it being such a heavy topic, I do think it's been interesting. Like I said, I haven't really followed a ton with the movie, but I know there's been some drama. So feel free to leave a comment below if you have any thoughts on the drama. But I have read that, you know, she and her male lead are not getting along right now for one reason or another. And there has also been some kind of negative backlash from the way people are seeing her promote the movie, and they feel like she's not giving enough time and energy to talking about the actual like heavy topic and theme of the book and movie. Instead, she's keeping it lighthearted and about the flowers and, you know, promoting a lot of her own branded items as part of this movie release, which is unfortunate because I do like Blake Lively. I think I've always liked everything that she's been in. I think she's beautiful. It's kind of sad that that's what it is. And also, like I said, I'm not following it closely, so I don't really know if I have an actual opinion on it. I just feel like, you know, it is an opportunity. You're on such a large platform to bring light and conversation to topics where you can have an influence. It's kind of a shame not to be using your influence for that. Okay, so there's the eyes with a little bit of liner on the upper lash line, and then I did my waterline. We'll see. I haven't used this pencil in forever, so I might need to reapply that at the end. But now let's move on to skin. And I noticed in the picture, I feel like her makeup is mostly matte, like I said, but it doesn't mean that I feel like her skin is looking like super matte and dried down. I think there's still a little bit of glow and color to it. So that's what I'm going to go for today. So I'm going to use my NARS Sheer Glow Foundation as my base. But something else I kind of wanted to talk about in terms of the book and when I was reading it is, yes, there's this, you know, huge overlying theme of, you know, facing abuse in your relationships and how to deal with it. But I think another thing that I really took from it and related to with the character is, you know, the self-growth and self-awareness that happens, you know, because even from the very beginning, even when there's like the flashback chapters of her in her childhood, she still is a relatively confident and independent person, which is something that, you know, I like to think of myself as. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we don't all still have insecurities, whether that's in our looks, whether it's in, you know, our confidence to do our jobs or go out and get a new job, our confidence to make friends and be social, or stand up for yourself in a relationship. So I kind of feel like that's also a major theme that maybe isn't touched on as much, but I did relate to that in the sense that, you know, I do like to think of myself as a confident and independent person, but, you know, I still have my own insecurities as well. And the way you can kind of help yourself through those insecurities, they might never go away, but if you're aware, if you're self-aware of those, and you kind of make an effort to work on yourself and grow, then you can make changes easier down the road, and maybe that insecurity will stop or end. And I think in the book, and I guess the movie too, that's something that I do think that they show, that if you are self-aware and then you're also surrounding yourself with people who are supportive and positive towards you, then it can help you work through those things. Her friendships that she make are vital to how the story ends out. Her relationship with her mother, her dealing with her past, and her relationship with her father. So I think it's hard. It's not always fun to delve into those things or admit them to yourself, or even, you know, journal about them, or talk openly about them to your therapist if you have one, but I think, it's never going to hurt you in the long run. It's always going to help. It's just going to be really hard until you get to that end point. So I'm just doing a little concealer, areas of my face that I need it, my trusty Superstay concealer. So I would love to know in the comments below, like I said, if you've seen the movie, what did you think? If you have any commentary on the drama going on, are you aware of it? Do you care? And just anything like that. I'd also love to know if you have any other Colleen Hoover books that you recommend as being like, if I was only going to read 1 or 2 more Colleen Hoover books out of all the ones she's written, so which ones would you recommend? That's what I would like to know. Because I don't know if I can commit to doing all of them. Because like I said, it would take a long time because I would need to take a lot of breaks. Okay, so I'm just going to set some of my T-zone area with a little bit of powder, kind of get rid of a little bit of that shine. I think another important theme or lesson that I took from the book is, at the end of the day, even if you have these insecurities or you're in this situation that you're unhappy with, whether that's a relationship or a job you're unhappy with or anything like that, you can take control of your life. I know that's not always 100% true, but just like top level thinking, like you are in control of your decisions. And it can be really hard to make those decisions because sometimes the consequences, you don't know what they're going to be, or you'll end up alone, or maybe you won't have a job for a while because you need to find a new one. But at the end of the day, it's your decision to either keep yourself in the situation that's hurting you or making you unhappy, or trying to do something to better yourself and to move on from it. So I know in no way have I ever faced any type of adversity or challenge like is represented in the book, but I did like that, she was confident in her business sense. So she was like, I'm going to open my own business, and she did it, and it was very successful. So I don't know if that's how that would work in the real world because I don't know anything about running a business or a flower shop, but I liked that she had that confidence in those areas of her life, and I think that helped her eventually more in her relationship part of her life. And so I try to do that too. We're not all perfect. It's really hard to be 100% committed to making changes or sticking to things, but like years ago, I was unhappy in my job and was thinking about leaving, and the timing worked out that I was able to move to a different section and kind of found like a renewed sense of motivation in that new position. And since then, I have also started taking classes to get a second master's degree in a different area of studies so that I can kind of build my skill set and have more confidence for if I want to move on later, or to add those things to my current job to make it better and more my own. So that was I know that doesn't sound like that would be a hard decision to make, but as an adult going back to school, it's hard and it's scary and it's a time commitment and it costs money and all these things. So I just kind of was like, you know what? If I don't do it, I'll never know, and I might regret it later. I don't want to look back in 20 years and be like, oh, that's when I had the time and the energy to do that, and it's too late now. So that's just kind of how I try to approach certain things in my life. Just, would I regret not doing this later, or what's the worst that could happen if I try this and take a chance? And realistically, the worst case scenario is usually not ever going to happen. So it's become easier for me as I've gotten older to kind of make different decisions for myself. I was using the Sculpt side of the Charlotte Tilbury powder duo, the Bronze and Glow. Anyway, so we'll keep using this to contour. And I know not everyone's gonna have the same childhood story that she has of, not just with her family situation, but not everyone meets like the person they're supposed to be with when they're freaking 13 years old. But I think another thing you could take from that part of the story is that our pasts really do influence who we become when we're older, whether we like it or not, whether we admit it to ourselves or not. And so kind of just remembering those parts of ourselves, dealing with it, admitting it, working through it as an adult also can help you move forward in areas that maybe you didn't realize were as challenging to you. So I think that's kind of what I also found interesting in the book is I don't know how they deal with that in the movie, but you know, she constantly is going back and rereading the letters, which are essentially her diary from when she was younger, and it can bring up old feelings or old memories that maybe you hadn't dealt with, and it also kind of reminds you of things that you were dealing with that maybe now don't seem as important. I mean, if I go back and read my journal from when I was in high school, the things I was worried about now seem really stupid. But at that point in my life, that was the biggest thing that was happening to me. And so it's important to not discount that. And then the way that that turned out or the way I dealt with it did kind of influence how I grew up and who I became. So it's just kind of learning and growing from those situations and yeah, understanding your past and dealing with it. So for blush, I feel like her blush was pretty neutral. So I'm going to use my Merit blush. This is just like a mini one in the shade Fox. It's a little darker, but I also feel like it would be a little neutral. I also feel like her blush kind of stays more up here. So I'm going to try and do that. That's not normally where I wear my blush. I usually like it a little bit more on the apples of my cheeks, but we're following the picture today. One thing that I do feel like when I was reading that did still kind of feel like some of the stuff I read from like my rom-com books, my chick lit, is like, isn't it convenient that there's always a character somewhere in there who's just like magically rich? Like, like that's nice, you know, oh, her best friend, I'm just like rich and I just work for funsies and I live in this amazing penthouse apartment in Boston, which is like the most expensive place in the United States to live right now. Like, isn't that convenient? And then you just happen to be friends with her so she like can give you all of her designer maternity clothes. It's always, isn't that convenient? Okay, so we're just gonna blend. I did like too the character of Lily. I know I've talked about how I felt like, you know, she was still a relatively confident and independent person. And I also felt like despite her past and everything, she was still seemingly like optimistic and positive about a lot of things. Like she just wanted to have fun in her life and run her business that she was really passionate about and have good friends and relationships. And she, you know, when she finds, spoiler alert, when she finds out she is pregnant, like she's of course torn because of how it happened, but she's also really happy because she wants to be a mother and have a family and all these things. So I think that's also kind of inspirational that even if you're facing certain things in your life that you can still be optimistic and positive about what is potentially coming down the line. Okay, so now that's the blush. So I'm gonna do some mascara. I'm gonna use my L'Oreal Lash Paradise, throw on a little bit of brow powder, and then I'll be back to do the lips. Okay, so that's with the mascara on. I do like the Lash Paradise. I bought this again a couple months ago because I think I had a coupon and I was like, I have not used that in forever, and I loved it when it first came out. I feel like though, I mean, it looks good on camera when I put it on, but I do feel like it's maybe a little clumpier and like spidery than I remember it being. But that being said, I like how black it is, and I feel like it does really lift my lashes and make them look good. So I'll keep using it. I just, you know, it does feel a little different than the first time when it originally launched. So I don't know if they've reformulated or what, but that's what we have on the eyelashes today. So now for lips, I feel like I noticed in the picture she's got a slightly darker lip liner that kind of looks like it's blended out a little bit, and then a lighter lipstick in the center. So I'm going to use my NYX lip liner in Ever, and then my lipstick I'm going to use is the Lawless lipstick in Fawn. So that's going to be the combo. So I'm going to do the lip liner and then try to like feather it out a little. Okay, so that's just the lip liner. So I'm just going to kind of blend it out a little bit. I don't want to lose the definition. I want it to be light enough that the lipstick can show up. So my overall thoughts from the book and my takeaways would be your strong, confident self. Stand up for yourself, regardless of what area of your life it's in. Relationships are super important and you deserve to be treated well and fairly and respectfully, whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, a work relationship, it doesn't matter. You should always be shown respect. You should feel safe in your relationships. And if you do not feel those things, then it might be time to move on. And it's okay to ask for help. I think that's another thing that I took from the book that I think applies to all areas of life, not just relationships or bad situations. It's so hard for us to ask for help, but sometimes it's okay to just be like, I need help. And once you voice that, a lot of times a weight is lifted and then you get the help that you need. Okay, so this is the finished makeup look. Turned out really well, and I'm just like not used to seeing myself with black eyeliner as much anymore, and I like the look. I don't know, what do you guys think comparison-wise? I think it's pretty good. Like I said, I had this to go off of this time, which was kind of nice, but honestly, when I was reading the book, even though I knew it was Blake Lively playing the character, I did kind of envision this woman who was confident in herself, who dressed well, who took care of her appearance, because that's just kind of how the writing developed the character to me. So I feel like this does match, you know, the character I was envisioning in my mind with what we see potentially happening in the movie. So as always, my book review ones are a little rambly and all over the place. Let me know in the comments below those things I mentioned earlier. What do you think of the book and the movie? What do you think of the press tour going on? And if you could only recommend one or two other Colleen Hoover books to me, what would they be? Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, subscribe and hit that notification bell, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye.